Okay, so we're streaming on YouTube. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming to the first planning committee steering special meeting for the potential District 21, District 4 RFA. Just so it's on the recording, Commissioner Dave Hansen is not able to join us at this time. He's going to try to zoom in as the meeting progresses. We only have a few things on the agenda today, mostly procedural stuff for you commissioners to decide, as far as a chair and a vice chair, appointing someone to transcribe the minutes of the meeting. Those are by RCW. We need to have transcribed minutes. Coming up with a meeting schedule, rules and processes that you may want to put on the committee. Potentially talking about a regional fire authority name, consultant discussion as far as do we want to reach out to someone to help us guide us through this process, someone that's either been through it before or has done it from the legal side of it, and then go ahead and set the next meeting, and that should be it. As well as I would add in there another agenda item is for us to take a look at some of the documents that I've sent out and what are the goals that you want your committee to get done in the next, between now and our next meeting, and what would you like staff to work on to bring back to you between now and the next meeting. So the first order of business would be for the commissioners, the joint commissioners, to nominate and elect a chair and vice chair for the committee.
Hey, I see Mark Chamberlain stepped away, but
I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Hey, I was wondering, I'd like to make a motion that you be the chair of this board due to the fact that, number one, you've had previous experience with the City of Bellingham and Fire District 8 in the past, and I believe that you could be a neutral party in this whole factor, even though that you're a District 4 commissioner. I've worked with you in the past, and you can see both sides of the issue. So I'd like to make a motion for you to head up this committee right now.
I'll second.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so it was moved by Commissioner Crawford, seconded by Commissioner Andrews, that Mark Chamberlain accept the chair position.
I will gladly accept it.
Great. Commissioner Chamberlain's agreed to accept. Is there, I'm not sure I should be running this meeting quite like this, but is there any other comments or discussion?
I'd just like to add that thank you, John, for making that motion. And I think being that I'm in kind of a temporary position here that I've been filled in, and I think I am a good neutral party, and I don't have any emotional ties to this position. But I think, and I do have previous experience as a chair as the Health and Safety Board for the City of Bellingham, and I'm glad to bring that experience over and serve as the chair on this committee. And thank you, and I'd be glad to be appointed this position. Do you guys all hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
You're talking into a void. I think that's a great idea. I think it gives.
Commissioner Ansel, your volume's pretty low. We can't hardly hear you at all.
How about now?
A little bit better. Can you hear him, Commissioner Andrews?
Yeah.
Okay.
Had that problem once before here. No, I think that's a good move, and I think keeping the chairs of both existing boards out of the chair position is probably a wise choice. So I got enough to do.
Okay, well, though, then we'll call for the question. As far as Mark Chamberlain being elected chair of the RFA committee, all those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
And nays. Okay, so Commissioner Chamberlain, Congratulations. I'm going to go ahead and turn the election of the vice over to you then, because it's yours now.
Nice.
Yeah. Anybody interested in being the vice chair of this committee?
John, are you interested at all?
You say me?
I said, would you be interested at all being the vice on this?
Due to my schedule, it might be kind of hard to vice chair these, but if nobody steps up, yeah, I can do it.
I can do the vice chair if it would be okay.
Okay.
Sounds good to me. If you're interested, Scott.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
So I'll move that Scott Fisher be the vice chair, and seconded by John Crawford.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Everybody signify by saying aye.
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 Any naysay? Okay. Mr. Fisher, you are the vice chair. So I guess I'm working down this list now there, Chief.
Yeah, I'm happy to help you. The next piece would be to appoint. We need to have official minutes, and so we've got 2 board secretaries at our disposal. If there's strong feelings one way or the other.
Is it up to me to appoint, or do we vote?
I think it would be best probably to vote.
Okay. I'd just like to say I've had an opportunity to work with both Chris and Jenny in the last, Chris in the last couple of months, and then Jenny, I worked with her during the EMS levy committee 5 years ago, and I thought she did a great job. I would be, just with my history with Jenny back 5 years ago with that whole process, I would probably favor Jenny.
Second.
Anybody else? Any other questions or?
I just, for the record, I mean, this is obviously one of those sticky situations where you've got 2 capable people and you have to pick one of them. My experience with Jenny has been great. Chris is obviously an employee of District 4. Jenny's an employee of District 21. So we have that sort of riff going for us. I would say that from a decision-making ability, I think Chris has more of that authority at District 4 than Jenny has at District 21. And so, no offense, but maybe perhaps being able to be less partial, not being in an administrative role, an administrator role, I would prefer to have Jenny as the transcriber.
Does Jenny have anything to add, or she here?
Get her to speak on record. You'll be the first.
I would be happy to transcribe the notes.
Okay. Everybody that does anybody want to make it? I'll make a motion to have Jenny as the appointed as the transcriber. Does anyone want a second? Anyone want a second? Seconded by Commissioner Andrews. Any questions or comments anymore? None. All right, then everybody that would like to have Jenny as the Miss Sand appointed as the transcriber, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any naysay? All right, congratulations, Jenny. You've been appointed the transcriber. So I guess the next item or agenda item is the meeting schedule. What was your thoughts on that, Chief?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I think there's two ways to look at this. One is we can, if we look at letter D, so the rules and process and the meeting schedule at the same time, if you, I sent out a copy of a draft, a RFA work plan that's got a timeline on there. And this was lifted from the state chief's website. And it's got a, like I said, it's got a timeline. The process is the individual items are lettered out there. So you have A, B, C, D. And then I went ahead and added our dates. I did make a mistake that if you look at August should actually be September. Since we're really at the end of August, we're not going to have much time to work on things at the end of August. So it bumps those first two items back a month. So items A through D would be, the goal for completion would be September through November. And then item E would be November and December. So really what my thought was is that we talk about some of these things. There's things that we need to do first. I mean, we're really getting item A out of the way today. But what we need to do next is our vision statement, or the vision, development of a vision statement. And I think that is something that would be easily completed before the next meeting. And whether you want to work on that together, as you want to set up a subcommittee, or you want to have the chair and staff from both districts work on it to create the vision statement, and then we bring it forward to the board next time. As well as start to work on the communication plan. And if you've had the time to review some of these things, the communication plan is really one of the biggest pieces that we're gonna spend a lot of our initial time on. Is how are we going to get word out? How are we going to get how are we going to communicate to our employees? How are we going to start to formulate the message that goes out to the public? Those kind of things are what we're going to need to start working on earlier.
The vision, I would be all right with staff from both districts working on that together and then bringing it to the board.
Okay.
And I think that would be a good plan. I think you're going to have a better hands-on with understanding and knowing the vision of what needs to be done,
okay,
and then bringing it to us.
Mark, I'd like to make a suggestion that we bring in labor to these meetings as well. I mean, these are the guys that are going to be, well involved in this. And these are the people that are going to be putting it out to the street to sell it to voters. So maybe we can bring in Ken to these meetings from here on out. So
I completely agree. I'm on board with that. And I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
As part of the planning committee, are there any other restrictions as far as membership in the planning committee, or who can be on that?
From what I'm reading, no, there's really not. You are the only voting members. Of the 6 of you are the voting members, but you can create a committee with fire chiefs, with citizens. You can create an advisory committee. I mean, you're really kind of unlimited as far as who you want to create or add as subcommittees.
But as far as sitting in on the planning committee, we can have additional people in this committee.
Yes, sir.
I am happy to have the local 106 rep be a part of this.
I think it would be.
Sorry, Mark. If we go into scheduling, I wonder if perhaps we should talk about a consultant prior to that, because there's no sense in us coming up with this really grand schedule that we can all go to, and if we hire a consultant and they aren't available with us when we need that, perhaps we ought to think about whether or not we want to have a consultant before we figure out when we might schedule meetings.
Yeah, that's another agenda item for this meeting, and if we want to talk about that now, we can.
Sure. And my goal in adding scheduling in there was, do we want to talk about one meeting a month? Do we want to talk about 2 meetings a month? Now the consultant may compress that time a little bit. They may tell us, no, 2 meetings a month isn't going to cut it. We're going to have to, do a few more extras here and there. But we have the ability to have 7 meetings between now and December 31st. So, and that's per the RCW. So it was just more to talk about the frequency of meetings, at least, and obviously adding the consultant in there will make a difference.
I am all for adding a consultant at this point. And I think we still also have to talk about revenue and expenses as well.
Yes, as far as what kind of funds we have budgeted for a consultant.
Yeah, and what is the consultant's fee going to be?
So I sent out a resume for Karen Reed, who comes highly recommended, has worked on multiple projects up and down the I-5 corridor, everything from small to large stuff. She was recommended by multiple fire chiefs as well as District 21's legal counsel. I've spoken to her on the phone a couple times. She is interested and has time to work with us. Her fee is $210 an hour. There is no travel time at this time because everything's being conducted remotely. So there's a savings there. We do in the District 21 budget, there is money set aside for a consultant or outside consultants. It was carried over from last year from the ESCI report. So that the money that we used last year for the ESCI report is the same amount as in there for consultants. I would need to get to have a better meeting with her as far as to let her look at the scope of the project to give us, how many hours does she think it will take? We talked on the phone briefly and she gave me a ballpark, but I'd like to kind of explore it with her further. The other option we have is that is obviously highly recommended, and everybody knows him, is Chief Dave Ralston, the former chief of South Wacom Fire Authority. We run into a little sticky point with compensation for him based on the way his retirement works. But if the committee is inclined, I will spend a little bit more time and work to see if there's a way we can figure out to legally compensate him for his consulting time. So those are kind of the two, what I would consider, gold standard options. Commissioner Hansen on the phone did express to me that he does think a consultant would be definitely a good item to have in this committee.
Jason,
Go ahead, Bruce.
well, we talk about Dave Ralston and the issues with him is him having to suspend his retirement. And I, would question anyone's sanity who would halt their retirement and then work back full time, or at least in a major capacity. It's different if you can collect your retirement and work extra. That's a whole different ballgame. And as much as I respect Dave and his experience, I don't know that I would want to burden him with that guilt of saying, gosh, we really want you to take a cut and pay from your retirement so that you can come help us out of a jam. I think he would be an excellent sort of secondary consultant for us, and could maybe come in an advisory position, but to sort of lead this whole charge. My understanding of looking at Karen Reed's resume and her past experience and talking with our legal at times, who has worked with Karen on a couple of the RFA processes, she does come really highly recommended. So you pay a lot per hour, but I think you get more bang for your buck when you have somebody who's been around the block. They've put these on ballots before. They've been successful in them. They understand all of the components. And I would think she's got a pretty good blueprint to walk in here and say, you need to do this, you need to do that. If you want to get it on in August, you got to have this many meetings and get this hammered out. And then, you know, we can use Dave, if he's willing and able, to sort of fill in the gaps, because, you know, none of us are obviously experts at this process.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I agree. I think that, you know, with Chief Ralston, we can use him as kind of the local check-in and make sure that we're getting the local flavor. Things get translated into Waukese, for lack of a better word. But I think that I don't think we can go wrong with Karen Reed. She's put together some pretty tough. You know, if anybody remembers the history of the Snow One Linwood get together, she was part of that, and that was a big, heavy, long-term lift, and she was able to get in there and help that process along.
I agree with Bruce. I looked over her resume, and I'm all in favor of hiring a consultant and doing it once and doing it right. And she sounds like she has the stuff to get this working. So I have no questioning on that. And I could understand Chief Ralston. And I don't want to burden him with his retirement and all. And I think Miss Reed would be a good choice.
I talked to Chief Ralston about a month and a half ago, and he did not seem excited about the idea of not helping every day.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to burden his retirement, so I could totally see that.
So we're looking for a motion here to go ahead and do Karen, or
Do we need to get some numbers at all first?
Like I said, she's $210 an hour.
Uh-huh.
Right now, there's no travel time. She works from, you know, remotely from home like the rest of us. So it's more than anything, I would like to get, and I can pass it out to the committee, but I would like to get an estimate from her as to what kind of time she thinks would be enough.
That's what I would like to see, is like an estimate on hours and stuff.
And if nothing else, Mark, maybe we can reach out to Dave to find out who did his consulting for his RFA as well, if they're still in business or still around.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. So, do you happen to know who that is? Harry? You were there during that time period, weren't you?
Yes.
Do you remember who the consultant was?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could look.
I'll
What's
talk
that?
to Ralston.
Okay. And then, do we need to make a decision in this meeting right now? Should we? Do we, or should we table that for the next meeting once we get an estimate on Miss Reed? And
If Miss Reed is somebody that we want to work with, why don't I get an estimate from her, and I will pass it to the committee via email, and I can get a yay or nay from there.
that would be great.
I'll share that with both Chris and Jenny to kind of verify what I don't want to call it the vote, but the count is, and that way we can get her on the schedule.
And also look at possibly who Ralston had for his, and if they're still available too. So.
Okay.
So I think we all decided, do we need to make a motion? So for adding someone from labor onto this committee?
I think it was recommended that we bring a labor rep in. We didn't actually vote on it. So
do we need to vote on it, or I'm not sure on that, Chief?
I think if no one is opposed to it, we can just make it happen.
Yeah, it comes recommended from the state, and so I've got no opposition towards that at all.
Here, I'll make a motion that we bring somebody into the planning commission meetings that we're having via Zoom.
I'll second it. Everybody in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. I'll contact Ken and let him know, and either he'll step up or he may have somebody in his on his mind that may be interested, and we'll keep them informed and get them on this email chain. How does that sound, Chief?
Sounds good.
This one,
Go ahead,
as
Bruce.
far as labor goes, I mean, we're not necessarily specifying one particular person as long as labor is present. I just don't want to have another scheduling issue, you know, where we're working around someone else's time frame and schedule. And if labor has, you know, a couple people on their executive board that could be present one at a time, I think we just say a labor rep is allowed to be on the committee. It doesn't specifically have to be Ken.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant. Either he will or someone else will. In fact, I guess he's watching. He said, "I'm good to go and wide open schedule." So,
All right. Thanks, Kenneth.
yeah. So that's a done deal. What else did we have? Have we skipped over something here? Rules and process.
And I think as far as rules and process at this time, I mean, we want to, you know, we're going to follow the RCWs correctly as pertain to the RFA formation and governance. But then the big thing I think is getting staff on that vision development that you tasked us with. And then let's any more process. I don't want to get too far. If we're gonna do a consultant, let's not mess up their process by trying to invent ours.
Yeah, so I think I want to hold off on the meeting schedule for now.
Okay.
Probably because of that, we'll get the estimate from Karen, and I'll do the email vote, and also giving consideration to the other consultant from South Wacom.
Yes.
Do we also want to hold off on the name because of that, or?
We could, just for transparency, Commissioner Hansen and I had lunch on Monday. He brought it up, and we talked about it. As far as a name, I think it's something we should think about. But one thing, as the fire chief, I would like you to think about is North Wacom Regional Fire Authority. It requires no rebranding, no new patches, no new stickers on the doors, no nothing.
I don't see a point in having to change the name and rebrand everything and burden the taxpayers with more costs than is necessary. So
That's just good common sense. I mean,
yeah.
Why would we want to change everything when that just, you know, South Wacom, North Wacom? I'm good with North Wacom.
Yeah, same here. Do we legally have to do any kind of name change?
We need to name it. I mean, we'll need to name the entity.
Yeah. Well, then I mean, if we go, I mean, right now it's District 4 and North Wacom Fire and Rescue Services. Do we have to change? I mean, is that if we go with not North Wacom Fire Authority, we could just leave the patch and everything the same?
Correct. What will happen is
seems common sense to me. So sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. District 21 will cease to exist. District 4 will cease to exist. We'll just all be under the blanket of the North Wacom Regional Fire Authority.
Yeah. I don't see. Go ahead, Bruce. Sorry.
I'd like to put a motion on the floor to name the new entity North Wacom Regional Fire Authority.
I'll second that. Oh wait, I'm not allowed to second things, right? Because I'm the chair.
No, you can actually.
Oh, okay. So we have a second on the floor. Then everybody, any questions, calls, or comments, or anything? All right, everybody in favor of just making it North Wacom Regional Fire Authority, signify by saying aye.
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 Any naysay? All right, looks like we've hammered out the name.
We're halfway there.
Yeah. Gosh, so we dealt with the consultant discussion, names done, and the rules and process, you still discuss that with the consultant along with the meeting schedule.
I think we should hold off and let them, if they've got a process that works.
Yeah.
Let's not get too far behind, or too far ahead, too far behind. So.
Yeah, no reason to booger up the process when we got somebody coming on board. Was there anything else that we really need to tackle this meeting? It seemed to go by fast.
It did. I kind of all day I kind of expected it to last hours and hours, and the closer we got, the more I realized that this should actually be this will probably be the quick one.
Yeah.
Where we'll start to really do the work.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mark,
Go ahead.
hang on, I gotta get my video back up here. Just maybe just a point of order, and we're following pretty much Robert's Rules of Order in our meetings. I think maybe we should all agree on sort of what are our rules. If we ever do get sticky on voting or procedure or whatever, it's nice to refer to a book or something. And I think most of us are familiar with Robert's Rules, or at least a version thereof. I don't know if anyone has any objection to us as a committee using that as sort of our standard, especially, when it comes to, who has the floor, how long can you talk, and, if we get into a tight vote, do we do a roll call vote and all that kind of stuff. So I think it might keep us out of trouble in the future.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. In fact, I think it's even recommended by the state that Robert's Rules of Orders be followed within these committee meetings. So I am all for that. And if I'm not exactly following to a T, it's because I need to refresh on them, and I apologize. That'll be my homework before next meeting. So I think, did we adjourn then? Have we covered everything?
If I could just point out real quick.
Go ahead.
So I will send out a link to it, but there's a chapter of the RCW 52.26 that covers the formation or regional fire authority, regional fire protection authority, the formation and the taxing statutes and everything. I will send that out as a hot link to everybody. They're pretty interesting. It talks about, everything from how we come up with taxes to taking on employees and so
We just lost Bruce.
we did. He must have had a bad internet connection or something. Anyway, I will send out this RCW as a hot link to everybody so you can go straight there and read it. It'll be some good reading in the in-between times.
Okay. Do you feel like there's any more that we need to cover in this meeting at all, Chief?
I don't believe so, sir. I think that's kind of, we've got some marching orders now. I will, Chris and I are meeting tomorrow on some budgeting issues, and we'll talk more about the vision statement and how we can work collaboratively to come up with that.
Division?
Yeah, 2 districts.
Okay.
So Chris will set another meeting at the meeting tomorrow.
Okay. I don't have anything else then. I guess we'll call the meeting to adjourn. Is that how it's done?
Yes,
Everybody, well, do you want to wait for Bruce to come back in, or do you think he's done?
I don't know if he's going to. I'm not sure what happened.
All right. Well, I'm going to call the meeting then. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Meeting's adjourned at 3:39 on August 26th.